This is Bouqui'S place. Today is going to be amazing. I have a very, very special guest. And you know what we talk about here? We don't talk about the things that everybody talks about. We don't talk about the wins. We don't talk about the awards. We talk about the pain, the struggle, the things that really make you as a human being. And guess what? I have a really special friend. Not only is she a friend, she's a sister. She's a destiny partner with me. And she's going to be sharing her testimony. I guarantee you guys today is going to be amazing. All those questions that plague you. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? What can I do with my potentials? I don't know what to do. I'm stuck in a rut. Listen, this session is guaranteed to take you out of that ditch and launch you into your next. Ladies and gentlemen, drum roll for the one. I can't hear your drum roll, everybody. The one, the only, Idahosa. Oh, hey.
Hiya.
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I am very well, thank you. Thank you for joining this session. Thank you so much. I know.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
You look gorgeous.
Me? Thank you. Thank you. You look gorgeous.
The hair,
Listen,
the makeup.
what can we now do now, sister? We try. Listen, today's gonna be amazing. I want you to say for me real quick, I am in Bouqui'S place.
I am in Bouqui'S place.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Listen, it's gonna be amazing. In here, like I briefed you, we don't talk about the wins. We don't talk about the awards because this season has peeled a lot of stuff off people's eyes. People have the identities, attached to their work. That whatever they've been doing for so long. People have been saying, "I'm a banker. I'm a this. I'm a that." And now this season has come to take all that away. So I want you to share your story. What we essentially talk about here is how to get out of that stuck position. And when you tell people the 7 laws of getting unstuck, they're like, yeah, it's easy for you to say. But when you share your story and you tell us one time that you were really stuck and how you did it, then it's more relatable. So welcome to Bouqui'S place. We kick this off from the very beginning. Tell us your story, where you were born and all that, and we take it from there.
Okay, so I'm excited to be here tonight, and I'm really happy to see you. I miss you.
I miss you.
So it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, so where do I start? You said from where I was born. So I was born in the U.S. I was born in Delaware.
Yes.
Best place on earth, well, at a time. So I was born in Delaware to wonderful parents. My parents were business people before they went into ministry. They went into ministry sometime around when I was in about 4th grade. And we lived as missionaries and we lived as pastors. And then I moved out of my parents' house when I was 17. I love my parents like crazy, but at 17 I could only stay but for so long. And so I moved out and I bought my own house and started living independently from 17.
You bought your house at 17?
Yeah, I bought at 17.
Wow.
Yeah, my dad was he's one of these people that is very passionate about teaching his children to make their own money and not have to depend on people. So that's kind of the way I was raised, just knowing how to make my own money. And so that's what we did even at 17. Moved out, bought my own house, started living independently, became a single parent through the foster parenting system. I had some children that I was really passionate about, and I was uncomfortable with their living situation. So they came and lived with me. Then I went to the school to become a foster parent, and I brought in some other children that I had never even met before that came to live with me. So I had a total of 6. Sorry?
What age did you start adopting?
I was 25.
Wow.
I was 25 years old when I brought in my first child to live with me. Actually 24 when I brought in my first child, but 25 when I became an official foster parent.
Yeah. Okay.
And then when I was around my late 20s, mid to late 20s. The guy that I had always liked ever since I was a 13-year-old came back into my world. And
Let me guess.
well, the only one I'm permitted to talk about would be the one I married. So
Let me guess.
I can't say he was my only crush, that's for sure. But but he came back into my world. September 11th happened,
Wow.
2001, when the World Trade Center issue was going on, and
Mm-hmm.
it was an interesting scenario. He was on his way to America
Mm-hmm.
while I was in the States, and he called me and he said that when they rerouted his plane to Canada, and he called me from Canada, and he's like, "Hey, I'm kind of stranded here. I'm stuck here. Is there any way that I can come stay with you guys for a little bit?" So we said sure. He came to Delaware, and we spent a couple weeks together, and then he asked me to marry him, and and so I had to kind of reevaluate where I was going and what I was doing. I was involved at that time as an emergency medical technician. I was working with the fire department. I was also a pastor in my father's church. I was also working full time. I was a real estate investor. I was involved in so many things, and of course, as I mentioned, foster parenting. So it was a difficult decision, but I made the decision to go ahead and marry the person that I had loved ever since I was a little girl. And
Wow.
I had to leave everything behind, and I moved to Nigeria. And
Wow.
I married a wonderful man, Femi Idahosa. So we, yay! So we started when I moved into Nigeria. Interestingly enough, he didn't have his own place, and so I moved into my mother-in-law's house, and so I
Wow.
lived in the family house for a year while we were building our own personal house. And when we were able to move into our personal house, trust me, I was the happiest girl on earth. And and then kind of life went from there. So I don't know how deep you want me to go into my story. Do you want me to go
Wait,
into?
listen,
Okay.
listen. We will flow. So you uprooted, like you uprooted from. I mean, if they ask me, Bookie, move from LA to this place, I'll be like, that's me with nothing in LA, just me and what I built in LA. You know what I'm saying? But you
Yeah.
uprooted from everything you've ever known
Yeah.
to go to Nigeria. Tell us how that happened psychologically.
Well, I think it was an interesting journey. I think that I think I believed too much in my capacity. I think I really thought that it was going to be easy. I thought that, you know what, when you've got love and you're serious with somebody and all this, that everything's going to be easy. But trust me, it was not. It was a tough move. In my first year, I can't tell you how many times I was ready to leave. I
Oh,
called
wow.
my best friend at the time was somebody named Judy, who you know, and and so I can remember calling Judy a couple times and just being like, "Look, I'm out of here. This is not what I bargained for." I kept getting sick. I had malaria. I had all kinds of other issues that come with living in the Nigerian environment. And I was just like, mm-mm. And then I was fighting with my husband all the time. Like I just was, I don't know, maybe because I didn't have any other friends. I didn't have anyone else to talk to. And so I was depending on him way too much. I was depending on him to be my emotional security, my everything. And when he wasn't living up to my expectations, I was just fighting him. I just remember always arguing. And I remember because we were living in the family house, I remember being so loud at the point that he's like, "Do you seriously want the whole house to know that you don't like me?" And I'm like, "I don't care." I'm like, I didn't know any different. I wasn't managing that 1 year of marriage the first year of marriage very well. But
So
thank God
what
for
changed?
grace.
What changed?
I changed. Yeah, I had to change because I was
Guess who's
not a
in the
very.
building?
Oh, hi, Auntie Nike.
Pastor Nick is in the building.
Yay. Yeah, so I had to change. I was not a very good wife in the beginning.
Wow.
I was so irritable, and I was always fighting, and I was hard to live with, I can imagine. And so I just kind of
Wow.
had to realize that my attitude was creating my environment, and
Mm,
if I didn't like my environment, it was probably a byproduct of my attitude. And so I had to start working on me. I was
mm,
going off of, honestly, to be very frank, I was going off of the American model where a woman can just shout at her husband anyhow. She can, talk to him any way she wants to. And,
mhm.
I was just kind of I had a very American approach to my marriage. And then I
Well,
had to
you're
soon,
American.
yeah, but I had to soon adjust my American isms and realize that that's not going to fly here in Nigeria because um, nobody really cares to hear about you. In fact, I didn't even have a name. Let me be honest. I think that was one of my biggest frustrations when I first got married is people didn't know my name. People never
What
called
did they
me
call
Laurie
you
or Pastor Laurie. They called me
when
Feb's
you did that?
wife.
Oh.
And it used to drive me so crazy. Oh, there's Feb's wife, or Feb's wife, come. Or I'm like, I was somebody before I married you. So what happened to my identity? Like, when did I just become Feb's wife? Like, what is that? And so
Wow.
it really grated on me, and it was
Mm,
tough. And it took me a while, I'll be honest. It took me a good 10 years before I got my own name in this country. For a long time,
wow.
I was just Mrs. Feb or Feb's wife. And that was a big humbling experience for me because I didn't like it. I was so used to having my own identity. And so
Mhm.
when I lost that, that was probably one of the hardest parts of being married was losing my
Wow.
identity. And being married in this kind of an environment where they don't care if you lost your identity or not. As far as they're concerned, you're Feb's wife. So
Mm,
that was tough.
wow.
That was a tough part, but we made it through it,
We
and
made it
we
through.
made it through it.
Pastor
Yeah,
Nika said must have been tough. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. So
yeah, it was.
not only did you have the culture shock, you had to become Feb's wife. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
now you lost your identity. And you know, this show is all about identity. People that have lost who they are, the essence of their being because of all this that is going on. So speak to someone right now, especially a lady. Oh, yeah, a lady that is trying to get married and is thinking love will cover it. I don't have to marry my husband's people. Love will cover it. Just speak from a place.
Okay, so I always encourage young ladies, listen, oh, don't marry just for love. Don't marry just because somebody um, captures your heart and captures your attention. Marry somebody that you know that you're really able to be committed to and that you're able to last with. Marry, of course, they always say marry your best friend, but I can't emphasize that anymore. You really, because at the end of the day, it's just the two of you. Um, and then this whole issue that people have about, like you just mentioned about, marrying into the family. Trust me, I tell people all the time, listen, if your husband's family doesn't like you or they don't want you, don't go where you're not wanted. Don't go where you're not
Wow.
loved, where you're not accepted, because you're going to spend the rest of your life fighting that battle. And it's not a nice battle to fight. And so many women are fighting that all the time, trying to gain acceptance from their in-laws, trying to gain acceptance from their husband's family. And it wears at you emotionally. In the first little bit of time, you might be okay. You might be able to deal with it. But after a while, it's too much. And it wears at your self-esteem, because our self-esteem is really wrapped up in the people around us. I mean, whether we
Wow.
can say that it's not, but the truth is it is. If people don't give us validation, if people don't give us love, if people don't give us acceptance, then our self-esteem suffers. And so I always encourage ladies, don't marry into a home where you already know ahead of time that they don't need you, they don't want you, and they've made that very clear. Just don't do it. You're going to fight a battle for the rest of your life that is an
Even
unnecessary
if
battle.
that's your true love, like true love.
You can find another true love. Love is
Wow.
love. Love comes from commitment, and so love has to be nurtured. So if you really believe that somebody is your true love, and you have to walk away from it because it's not healthy for you, then
Mm.
walk away and uh, start nurturing something else. Nurture yourself, and then
Nurture
nurture your next
yourself.
relationship. Yeah, and then nurture your next relationship. Um, you don't have to stay where you're not wanted, and that's really what I encourage women all the time is go
Wow.
where you're loved, valued, appreciated, honored. It's an important part of your self-esteem.
Wow. Wow. Oh, listen, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes because you came, and now not only did you have to wait a long time to have a child, you had all so give us how it was, and then now waiting for a child. How did you get to that place in your mind that, listen, I will not die? That kind of thing. How did you do it? Because it's all about empowering someone that's in that position now.
Yeah, so when we first got married, there was a lot of pressure on us to have children right away. People started nicknaming me EA twins and so many different things. And
What's
and
EA
so
twin?
it means a mother of twins in the
Oh,
Benin
oh,
language.
oh,
So they
oh.
were calling me mother of twins and all of this. And so I actually saw a lot of that as being prophetic. And so I kept thinking that, oh, they're calling me. I didn't know they call every new wife mother of twins, but
Oh.
I thought it was just me. I thought I was special. But so I was waiting for a child, and I kept expecting it. And in the first year of marriage, honestly, I needed a child because I felt like I needed somebody else to love, and I
Stamp.
needed
Oh,
somebody to
okay.
love me. I felt like I needed that unconditional love that a mother and a child have.
Hmm.
I felt like I needed it for myself. And so I looked for that, and I looked
Hmm.
for it for the wrong reasons. And I really, really wanted to have a baby in the beginning.
Hmm.
And within the first year of marriage, it didn't happen for us. So within maybe about 9, 10 months, we went back to America and we did some testing to find out why we weren't getting pregnant. And that was basically because I was putting so much pressure on him. I was just like, I gotta have a baby, I gotta have a baby. And so he's like, let's go find out. So we did all of our tests, and after doing the tests, the doctors came back to us and told us that we were 99.9% infertile, that we couldn't have children at all. That between the two of us, he had infertility issues. I kind of had a guess that I might have had some, because I used to have really painful periods, and I had some signs that maybe something was going on. I had endometriosis, I had a tilted uterus, I had a blocked tube, I had all kinds of issues. I had PCOS. So
Oh.
I kind of had an idea that maybe I had some issues, but I didn't know how severe they were until they did all the tests. And then they also tested my husband and said that he also had severe infertility. So between the two of us, they said we couldn't have children naturally. And
Wow.
that was a big blow to my faith, a big blow to my identity once again, because I was trying so hard to identify as a mom. I just thought, if I can just be a mom, then everybody will lay off of me. They'll just, all this pressure that I'm feeling will disappear, and everybody will be happy with me. And, I wanted it for all the wrong reasons, as I said. And so we tried. The doctors told us that we couldn't have, so we went ahead and we tried IVF, which is they told us is the only way to do it, and they told us we had to do not just IVF, but we had to do the special IVF where they actually inject the sperm into the egg, which was much more expensive than the regular IVF. But it didn't work. The first time we tried it, it didn't work. Second time we tried it, it didn't work. And now, mind you, we went through this very personally. We didn't involve anybody. I didn't tell anyone here in America. We're there in America. I didn't tell anyone in Nigeria. We had just told my parents, his mother, and then one of his sisters. But I didn't even tell my own biological brother. We didn't tell anyone what we were going through. And so we did one IVF, two IVFs, three IVFs, and it's failing one after another, and it was devastating. And at this point, years are passing by, and we're not getting pregnant. And so finally, we agreed with each other that we would seek out the best IVF clinic that we could find. And so we found one in New York, at New York Presbyterian Hospital. We did all of our research, and at the time, they had the best results with our particular infertility issues. So we went ahead and we tried getting pregnant through there. It was even a more expensive and more stressful situation because we had to go back, or I had to go back and forth to New York every day. My husband was still in Nigeria while I was going through the IVF. He didn't stay with me, so that was difficult for me. And he promised me that he was going to come in just in time to give the sperm sample, so that he could, of course, be the biological father of the child. And he didn't come on the day that he was supposed to come. And so they had to extend my IVF treatment by an additional day. And that really upset me a lot. I just remember how angry I was at the time that, look, I've gone through this for how many weeks? All you need to do is just this part, you know? And that was a difficult time. But they had to extend my IVF by one day. And when they extended it by a day, it put me into a very bad place hormonally, and it made my ovaries had they overstimulated my ovaries, and so when he was there and they finally were able to withdraw the eggs and then connect them with the sperm, my ovaries had been so hyperinflated that they twisted, and I ended up having ovarian torsion, which was excruciatingly painful. And I was admitted to the hospital in New York, and the doctors did investigations on me, and they said that they were going to have to remove my ovaries, that they were completely twisted, and the blood supply was being cut off, and that this was going to be my last chance at having a baby because they were going to have to remove my ovaries. And it just so happened that that same day, I had a family member that passed away, and it was a difficult day. So we just said, look, no emergency surgery. I'm an emotional wreck. I can't do this. Let's wait till tomorrow before you do this surgery to do anything with my ovaries. And so they gave me a sedation with some heavy pain medication because it was excruciatingly painful. And when I woke up the next morning before the surgery, they retested, and my ovaries had gone back into position supernaturally overnight. God just untangled my ovaries for me. It was such a miracle. And that pregnancy, we were able to get pregnant from that IVF, and that pregnancy ended up in a very handsome baby boy. God bless my husband and I on the 3rd of July of 2007 with a bouncing baby boy, and he was just like our life was. It was like the most beautiful thing to finally be a mom and to see my baby. And so we went to bed that night after giving birth to our son Ben. And then the next morning, the doctors came into the room, and they said, Mr. and Mrs. Idahosa, we need you to come down to the nursery. Our baby had been in the nursery overnight. They said, you need to come to the nursery. There's something wrong with your baby. And we're like, what do you mean there's something wrong with our baby? They said, something has happened, and you need to come to the nursery. So we got down to the nursery right away. And when we got there, we found them doing CPR on our baby. Our miracle baby that we had believed God for 6 years. We were watching them do CPR on him. He had died. And they did everything to help our baby live. I mean, everything. They had a helicopter en route. They had everything, and our baby still died. And I remember just being like, God, why? You know, why would you let me go through having a full-term baby? Why would you even let the IVF work? Why would you? And I remember just being so so upset. And I remember just trying so hard to bring my baby back to life. I mean, I put my mouth over his mouth and over his nose, and I was breathing into it after they called the time of death. And I was trying to do everything. I'm like, I can make this baby live. And we were commanding, we were praying, we were laying hands. We had all of our friends from all around the world were praying in tongues and going up and down the hallways, crying and praying and commanding the baby back to life. And he didn't survive. Our miracle baby didn't make it. But something happened to me at that time, and I never held my baby when he was alive, because I gave birth to him by C-section, and I didn't get to hold him when he was alive. But they took me into a side room, and America does things a little differently than Nigeria. But they took me into a side room, and they put the baby on my lap, the dead baby. And I held my dead child. That was the first time I held him. And I held him in my arms, and I was just looking at him. And for the first time, I can tell you, I felt like I was a mom. And I was like, I just looked at my husband. I'm like, I'm a mom. And I'm like, I know that I know. Sorry. I was just like,
Okay. Bouquie, behave yourself.
I know
I think the rain is coming from my room. My room is
sorry. So I was just like, I know that God's giving me my children. And there was this shift that happened in me, that it was no longer about me. It was no longer about me wanting to be a mom for the wrong reasons. It was about me saying, you know what, God, you're going to prove yourself in this situation. The enemy is not going to get the glory. God, you are going to give us our children. And a change kind of happened in the way that I dealt with the whole thing. I mean, yes, I was emotional. I cried for days, and probably weeks, and probably months. Different things would make me cry, and different things would make my husband cry. But there was this resolve that happened on the inside of us at that point, where we said, you know what? We cannot manufacture a baby. We did everything. We did all the IVF. We did everything. We could not manufacture a baby. So God, if we're going to have a child, this is going to have to be you. And I won't lie. I called the doctor, and I asked the doctor if he could help me. I asked the doctor if he could, help us do another IVF. And he said no. He said that you had a C-section. You're going to have to wait at least a full year before you can have another IVF. And so we came back to Nigeria, and coming back to Nigeria was tough. I mean, it was probably one of the hardest things that I had to go through, aside from the day my child died. I came back, and I was on the airplane, and I was hearing babies cry. Oh. And I remember just thinking, like, this is just so unfair. Like why can they have children and I can't? And I used to think about, like, all these girls who are aborting babies. I mean, I work in a university, so we've had lots of girls that have had unwanted pregnancies, and they come into my office and they start saying, oh, I want to abort this child. And I'm like, how? It was tough. It was tough. But in the middle of that, there was still this resolve that God was going to give us our kids. And we started to put our energy not into making a baby anymore, because the doctors told us that was off limits. And we put our energy into building a women's and children's hospital here in Nigeria, because we're like, look, if this thing happened in America, where they've got everything, helicopter and ICU and how many neonatal doctors and specialists were looking at our baby and helping our baby, if it can happen there, then what's happening in Nigeria, where a lot of people don't have anything? And so we started putting a lot of effort into that. And as I said, this was July that this happened. In November, I still hadn't gotten a period. And so I just thought, I don't know when you ovulate after you have a baby. I don't know when you get a period. I didn't know anything about how that whole system worked. But I started getting a little concerned that I hadn't had a period yet. And I asked my husband, I'm like, what's going on? He's like, how do I know? And then he suggested that I take a pregnancy test just to make sure that I wasn't pregnant, because we had resumed relations. And I'm saying that in the nicest way possible. But,
Children are watching.
yes. So I went and did a pregnancy test, and I did one of those little 50 naira pregnancy tests, very cheap, less than 20-cent pregnancy test. And when I did the test, it came out positive, and we found out that we were pregnant naturally, with no doctors, no injection, no IVF, no nothing. God gave us a natural pregnancy. And that baby is Feb Jr. And he was born a year later. He was born on the 9th of July of 2008. And Feb Jr. is now 11 years old.
Wow.
And is doing so well. And we're just, it just really showed us that, for me, it showed me that my priority had to be in the right place. And I don't believe that God took my child because my priority was in the wrong place. But I do believe that when my priority was in the right place, it released something in the realm of the supernatural. And when my dependency was no longer on doctors, when my dependency was no longer on what I could do in the natural, and it just was completely on God, God did what God does best, and he worked a miracle. And that's Feb Jr.
Wow.
I don't know if you want me to keep going, or if I...
I'm a mess right now. I'll give him a candy when I see him.
Sorry.
I'll hug him special. He'll be like, get off me, Auntie Bouquie. Wow.
Yeah.
Man,
So it's just...
you went through all that and you came out strong. In hindsight, do you see, I mean, you already said that, you know, God wanted your focus to be on him and, you know, self-development and all that. But if you look back again, do you think there was a reason why God allowed it? Like, you know, when you look back and you're like, oh, this was a deeper reason, right? Can you see anything like that?
There's several things that I think anytime we go through grief, we need to find a deeper reason. Sorry. No problem, but I'll keep talking with your friends. I think anytime we go through grief, we look for a deeper reason. We look for something that to help us make sense out of it. And that's what I did. I think now I can look back and say, you know, wow, God, you're pretty amazing. Because of this, I'm able to help a lot of other couples. I'm able to be empathetic towards people who are going through infertility or infant loss, or that have, there's so many different people that are in impossible situations. I have a lot more empathy for them. You know, I spoke to a girlfriend of mine this past week. She just found out she has stage 4 cancer, and it's somebody that I love very, very dearly. And I talked to her. I'm like, listen, in her case, they're giving her a 20% chance to live. And I'm like, you know what? If God could do the 0.001%, then God can certainly work with your 20%. You know, the scenario is no different. A miracle is a miracle. And so it's definitely given me a lot more drive to see the miraculous, a lot more drive to see God do supernatural things in people's lives. And it's given me much more resolve now that the things that used to turn my world upside down, look, if I can get through this, then I can certainly let that roll off my back. Because it, you know what I mean? It really, you find out that you're not really living for yourself. You're living for what he wants to do in and through you. And that's been my experience. And we've been able to help a lot of, I mean, we've had miraculous stories at our hospital, our Big Ben's Children's Hospital, absolutely miraculous stories that have happened. You know, people that couldn't have kids that are having kids, people that had impossible deliveries, babies that they thought were going to be stillborn that were born alive. We've just had, it's a miracle hospital. It's just been a miracle hospital. And it wouldn't be there if we didn't have that experience.
So that was your gym. That was your gym. You were working out there so that you could build enough muscle to pull other people
I believe that's part of it. I do believe that's part of it. And I should make sure that I share the rest of the story, because after
Please.
Feb Junior, we wanted to have more kids. We didn't want Feb Junior to be an only child, even though I had two children by the time, and I had two children by C-section. And so our doctors were like, you know, 2 C-sections is enough for somebody with all of your medical conditions. But I wanted more kids, so we convinced the doctor to retest us when it wasn't happening, and the doctor retested him and I, and told us that we were worse than we were before,
Wow.
that we couldn't have children naturally. That and he even told us, he used this phrase. He said, "Nobody wins the lottery twice." He's like, your first baby is like winning the lottery. This Feb Junior, so you can't expect it twice. And so we went ahead and we did another IVF after Feb Junior,
Wow.
trying to get pregnant again, and it failed. We didn't get pregnant, but we came back to America again, or we came back to Nigeria again after doing that IVF, and within a couple of months we got pregnant naturally, without the intervention of doctors.
God is like, child.
So God's
Wow.
like, look, this womb is my womb, okay?
Mm.
Nobody else can put a baby in there but me. And,
I reserve the right. Yes.
and that's what he's like, look, I already made this a miracle womb, so you're not going to turn it to science. And so that's what happened with us. So then we gave birth to Nathaniel in November of 2011. And then while I was still breastfeeding Nathaniel, Nathaniel started to reject my breast milk, and he kept pushing me away. And I'm like, I don't understand. Feb Junior, I was able to breastfeed him forever. I don't get this. Why is, and so somebody told me that when babies reject your breast milk, you can be pregnant. And I'm like, okay. And now I was doing exclusive, so I wasn't seeing any menstruation. I was just fully breastfeeding. And so I took a home pregnancy test, and sure enough, Judah had already come inside. And Judah was actually a twin. I went to the hospital and did an ultrasound, and they saw two babies, not just one.
Wow.
But his twin didn't survive in the first trimester. We lost the first twin, but Judah survived. And Judah's delivery, he's now 7 years old. His delivery was another miracle. I had a very complicated pregnancy. I had a placenta accreta, which is the highest risk that you can have for a woman. It's the doctors in the U.S. told me that I had a good chance of not surviving my delivery with Judah. So they had several surgeons present for the delivery. They told me I was going to have a hysterectomy right there in the delivery room. And that they had blood on standby. It was a very fearful day for the doctors, but we knew that God was in control. And I was able to deliver Judah without having to have a hysterectomy at that moment. And I was able to wait, a good maybe 6 months until after he was born before they finally had to do a hysterectomy. But yeah, so it's a miracle. All my deliveries, all my pregnancies, everything just comes down to God showing himself as God, and showing me that he can work miracles when we're patient enough to wait for him to be God and not try to take his place.
We can't gloss over that last line. We cannot gloss. We will take it in slow-mo. If you are patient enough to wait. Can you break that down? Because a lot of people, we live in a generation that everything is microwave. I want it now. I want it now. If I don't get it now, I don't want it. And it's not their fault. It's the way they've been conditioned. Everything is fast food, microwave. I remember back in the day, they would cook and they would soak it for days before they would cook it, and stuff like that. But now you can go over to the store and get a Thanksgiving, greens and all that stuff already made, So I want you to talk to this generation, someone listening now, someone with a sense of, you know what, if you can't, I'm not ready to sow my seeds here. If you're not ready to help me, I'm going to move on. And what that does is it gives you no roots. It's
Yeah.
like a seed. A seed just stays planted. A seed doesn't say, I'm going to grow, I'm going to grow. It just stays planted. A lot of people I see now, I love this generation, they don't want to be planted. They don't want to sow. They don't want to invest. So you talk to this, and perhaps there's someone listening now that is not patient enough, that doesn't have the capacity to wait. Please speak to them.
Yeah, so the way I see it is, it's if you have to manufacture it, then you really don't need it. If you
Mm,
have to make it happen, then it's not really what's good for you. When it comes in terms of uh, even in everything, any kind of success that we're going to experience, if you have to manufacture it, if it's love, if you have to manufacture the love and force the person to stay in love with you, if you have to keep feeding the love unhealthy things just to keep the person on standby, then that love's not going to be what's going to be enough to hold you through your future. If you have to manufacture anything that you have to make happen with your own strength that doesn't
power.
require the God factor, then
Mm,
it's not worth holding on to. And it's important to be patient and wait. And I'm not saying that there's a point where you have to work. We work for the things that God gives us. We're not lazy. We're not people that just sit back and say, okay, God, you do everything. No, He blesses the works of our hands and all of that. But truly, when God is involved in something, there's always an element of the supernatural. There's always an element that says, I could not have done this had it not been for God. Had it not been for God's intervention, had it not been for God's wisdom, had it not been for God's timing, had it not been for His protection, His provision, whatever word you need to put in there, then this could have never happened. And I think without that, we're just working in our flesh, and we're building wood, hay, and stubble, like the Bible says. And I want to
Yeah.
build things that are going to have eternal value.
Last.
And
Yes. Yes.
and I
You
think that
cannot
should be the
create a
goal.
God win.
No, the goal that we should all have is to build things that has eternal value, and that you're gonna be able to look back at that day, at Judgment Day, and He'll be able to say, "Yes, I gave you a purpose. I gave you a calling. I put something in your hands. Well done, my good and my faithful servant. Enter into your rest." Um, I don't want to look back at him look at me and tell me, you know, Laurie, you were pretty, you were smart, you were engaging, you were interesting, but you didn't do anything that I told you to do. So here's your little
Wow.
shack in the corner. No, I don't want a shack in the
Wow.
corner. I want a
Wow.
mansion. So
Wow.
so that's what I encourage people: be patient and wait for the things that God has promised, and put in the requisite work that requires spiritual work, not just physical work.
Wow. Listen, your story is so touching. Are you gonna make a movie? Listen, I could it's a fairy tale. Oh, you what, girl? In Nigeria, it's a fairy tale. I'm telling you, it's gonna be a nice movie. Let me produce it. Let's talk. Let's talk.
We'll talk. We'll talk.
No, but really, your story is so inspiring. And when you look at people, you wonder why they are strong. You wonder what keeps them going. You don't know their story. And then you see you see the glory and you wonder why. And that brings me to my next question. Because some people right now are listening. They can cook, they can sing, they can rap, they can bake. They're what we call the multi-potential life. They can do a lot of things. And now, because of that, they're confused. They don't know which one to prioritize. I know you are you have a university, you have a hospital, you've done runway, like your hats. I can't, honestly, you're a mom of 3 boys, not 1, 3. You're a wife. You have been incorporated into people with a heritage that you can't just sit on the sideline. So how do you juggle all these things and you still keep momentum?
I believe what I do personally, and it might sound like a very unspiritual answer, but what I do is wherever I am, I'm 100% there. So if I'm with you
Mm,
right now in this conversation, I'm not mothering the 3 boys. I've got somebody watching them right now. I'm not taking care of my husband. His food's on the table if he needs it. You know, I'm not
So
thinking
you're
about pastoring the
present.
church, or I'm present, and I stay present. You know, we also own a school, Nathan American Academy, and last night we had a meeting with all of our parents, a
Mm,
Zoom meeting with all of our parents, and while we did the Zoom meeting, I was a proprietor. I wasn't a parent, even though my own kids are in the school. And so what I'm saying is that I compartmentalize. And I think that compartmentalization has helped me be able to accomplish many different things, and has
mhm.
also helped me emotionally and mentally be able to maintain some level of stability despite some of the ups and downs that I've gone through.
Mm.
You know, even in my deepest grief, if I was completely a basket case with grief, but I knew that I needed to step up to the plate to go into a meeting or to do something, I would compartmentalize my grief. I wouldn't ignore it. I would put it over
You
here
put
and
it
say, Laurie,
aside.
you've got to focus on this meeting right now. You
Mm.
cannot cry in this meeting. You cannot. This meeting has nothing to do with your losing a baby. This meeting is all about the students of the university, or whatever the case may be, and you're going to have to pull yourself together and be present for this assignment. And I think compartmentalizing really helped me a lot, and helps me even till now, to be able to wear many different hats.
Wow. Wow. So now that we're speaking about this, that people watching you now, because you've talked about purpose, you've talked about destiny without talking about it, you've talked about the things that people hear, like where am I going? Who am I? How do I find out which one to prioritize? Which brings me to my next question. Now, you have told us that you know how to be present. As a matter of fact, when I got the revelation of what they call human being, I was like, wow. God said, what is, I broke the word down. Being, not human doing, not a human gonna do. Be in the moment, like be there, focus. It's called laser focus. It's good. It's one of the major traits of a good leader. Laser focus. Don't be
Yeah,
so all over the place.
yeah.
So there's so many people now. That's the part two of this question. They can do all these things. How do they know? How do you have said you know how to be in the moment. How do they know which one to prioritize? Is there an ease or is there a pull? Or how do I identify which one is my it factor?
You know, I believe that we have seasons. I believe that our it factor changes from season to
Mm,
season. And I think it's important to really know what season you are in. And
mm,
if you're in a season where you're everywhere, that's okay. That might also be a season. But if you're in a season where you need to focus on one particular assignment, then
mhm.
do that. So I think seasons are so important to know. And the only way that I can say that I know what season I'm in is by staying in tune with the person of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit just helps me. He's my helper. He shows me what to do and when to do it and what not to do. And I think when you have a friendship with God and you are used to having fellowship and communication with Him, where you talk to Him and He talks back to you, then I think that it's easier for you to know what season you're in, what timing you're
Navigate
in,
the seasons, yeah.
and what you're supposed to be doing for time. Um, right now is the season that I'm in. I'm wearing lots of different hats, but there's been times that I've just been very narrow focused on one particular assignment, and so it just really depends on your fellowship with God, and it depends on your connection with His voice
Mm,
and hearing Him.
yeah. Mm. Wow, man, I want to keep talking, but I think we have this is 10 minutes. But I want to talk about decision making on the path to, what I want to do. How important is decision making? Because like you said, a lot of voices in your ears, especially the one that's in you, from you. I mean, you can always fight the voices from outside. Don't talk to me like that. You get out. But what do you do with the voices that speak to you from within? The voices that tell you, Bouquie, you can do it. Shut up and sit down. Oh, look, okay, you know what? Are you really going to try to do that? Oh, come on, sit down. So how do I shut those voices that make me feel incompetent, that make me feel insecure? How do I shut those voices down?
You know, I think the best way to shut those voices down is to amplify the correct voice, which is the voice of the Word, the voice of the Holy Spirit. When you amplify God's voice in your life, then those self-defeating voices, they lose their authority, they lose their ability to influence you. So, you know, for me, I used to really suffer from a low self-esteem. I used to feel that I was ugly, I was unattractive, I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't talented enough, I wasn't black enough, moving to Nigeria. And I mean, I remember there was a time I was the only white person I would see for months on end, and I'm like, you know, and so the deeper relationship and fellowship you have with the Holy Spirit and with the Word, the more you can amplify that voice in your life, and it quiets down the confusion. You know, where there's confusion, where there's strife, the Bible says that there's every evil work, which is an open realm to the demonic. So if you're experiencing a lot of confusion, if you're experiencing just a anxiety and just a lot of just barrage of everything, you know that that's not the place where God lives. So you need to quiet yourself down, go back, hear from God, get into fellowship with Him, get in fellowship with the Word. And if you don't get a clear direction, like if you don't get, thus says the Lord, you know, do this or do that, which most of us don't get, just start following what His Word says to do. I mean, the Word is enough prophecy for me. So if the Word has already told me what to do. He's already told me to make disciples of all nations. He's already told me to feed His sheep. He's already told me so many different responsibilities that we have in the Word. So take what the Word tells you to do and start acting on it, and then you'll start getting those specific instructions that you need.
Wow. Listen, man. I'm serious, man, because I'm trying to speak Chinese. I'm listening to your story.
I was like, what was that?
It was Chinese. It's a ching chong. You know, but it's when you give master kudos. But really, I am absolutely impressed by your story, and I'm happy that we're this close and I never really heard it. Because I am so happy that this is the first time I'm hearing it. My emotions are authentic and raw. You know, it's not like, oh, what I know. You know what I'm saying? And I just want to say thank you. I just want to say we love you. I just want to say, listen, man, we got you. We got you. We are for you. See, our hair is not different. Don't worry. You don't feel, but I know you've gotten over all that now. But before we go in closing, if there's someone right now, like a fish out of water, in an environment, how do they adapt? In any environment, bank, work, home, new wife, new mom, but in their minds, because you had to get to somewhere in your mind, you know, it comes from inside out. You had to get to somewhere. How did you get to that place? Just give someone a nugget that they can hold before we close.
So for me, I didn't, how do I say this? I had to allow myself to be me. I didn't want to become somebody else. Now, parts of my culture had to adapt to the Nigerian culture. Parts of my mentality had to adapt to the mentality of the environment that I was in order to be able to survive. But at the end of the day, be you. Be who God created you to be. There's a reason why they hired you for that job and not somebody else. They saw something in you that they wanted. There's a reason why Feb married me, the white girl from Delaware, and he didn't marry the Benin girl. So I didn't try to become who he didn't marry. I didn't try to become a Benin girl. I didn't try to become the stereotypical pastor's wife, because that's not who I was when he married me. When he married me, I was an independent woman. I was strong. I had my own mind. I had my own ministry. I was doing me, and I think that's what endeared him to me. And so don't change who you are just because your environment might demand certain things from you. find a way to balance it and allow your true persona to really come out, because that's the only time you're really going to be celebrated, is when you're an individual and you're not just a part of the masses. And so that's what I would encourage. If you're in the bank and you've got something quirky that's a little different than everybody else, maybe that's what's going to make everybody want to come to you as a teller instead of somebody else or as their bank officer. So be you. Don't try to be somebody else, because you're never going to fit into somebody else's shoes.
Pastor Nikki just said it too. Be you, don't be somebody else. I wish we had more time. So I have a friend right now that's married in a toxic relationship. The guy beats her all the time. So recently we just all flew her out. The second time she's running, we flew her out and everything. Got her a place. She's away from the guy. Some type of way the guy got access to her again, and now she's saying she wants to go back after like 3 months. This is the second time this is happening in like 3-4 years. Now she's saying she wants to go back. I'm the one who has a problem. If I keep quiet when he talks, he won't hit me. After we've had pictures of her eyes like this and everything, if she's here, talk to her right now.
Okay, darling, we love you. You're important. You're special to God. You're special to the world. And the only way that the world is going to experience your value is if you're alive. And so we need to keep you alive. We need to keep you safe. Now, your husband is loved by God the same way that you're loved by God. So you don't have to think that embracing yourself and loving yourself is denying him of love. Right now, he needs God to be the one who loves him. He needs God to be the one that heals him and that restores him and that gives him a renewed mind so that he can love you properly. And I want him to love you properly, and you deserve to be loved properly. We don't want your home to break up. We want your husband to get help, and he's not able to get help when you're around. So you need to help yourself and help him by disengaging from the environment until there's a restoration that has taken place, and until we can be confident and he can be confident that whatever demons have been in his mind are out. Whatever is affecting his behavior, even if it's from his childhood experiences, that it's been dealt with. It may not happen overnight, but once it's done, it'll be done. And you'll be able to have a healthy and happy home. So be patient with us. We're looking at it from the bigger picture, and we need you to listen to advice and take a step back and allow the professionals to come in and do what they need to do so they can help him heal. We can also help you heal as well.
Wow. Listen, we love you so much. Can we get like 50? We love you. Bouqui'S Place loves you. We love you, Reverend Laurie. Listen, we love you. You are amazing. Thank you so, so much. I mean, your story is inspiring. You need to write a book. You need to make a movie. People need to know that because you see, you're a result of the decisions you make. Some people didn't go through half of this and they decided to take their lives. They're like, there's no hope for me. I can't see anywhere. I can see any way into the future. I can't see anything. So, they end it, so I'm impressed. I am challenged by your faith, by your tenacity, and God bless you so much for coming to Bouqui'S. Let's have 1 minute. Listen, I will milk that 30 seconds. Well done for being real. Pastor Nikki said, well done for being real.
Thank you, Pastor Nikki. Thank you for staying on. That's huge.
I know. She's on a Monday. She's on a Monday. I can't wait. Listen, we love you. We love you, Reverend Laurie. We love you. Thank you so much for coming to Bouqui'S. You have 25 seconds. Tell us you love us.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you so much. Regards to Bishop, and listen, we got you. We got you. I got you. I got you. God bless you so much.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, guys. God bless you.